So, Cambodia is diving into one of the biggest, most ambitious projects it has ever attempted. A massive canal that's set to completely change its trade, its future, and, yeah, its relationship with its neighbors. But the big question is, right? Is this thing a lifeline for a country that's desperate for independence, or is it a new fault line in a region that's already full of tension? Okay, let's get into it. First things first, let's just talk about the scale here. The price tag for this is a whopping 1.7 billion US dollars. I mean, to put that in perspective, that's almost 4% of their entire country's GDP for a year. So you gotta ask, what on earth are they building for that kind of cash? Well, what they're building is called the Funan Techo Canal. Think about this, a 180-kilometer man-made river designed to connect the capital, Phnom Penh, straight out to the Gulf of Thailand. This is a project of truly historic size for the country, and for them, it's about so much more than just concrete and water. And this quote from the Cambodian leadership just says it all. They've called it a nose for the country to breathe through. It's this really powerful way of saying, hey, this isn't just about money and trade. No, for them, it's about being able to stand on their own 2 feet, a declaration of sovereignty. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What exactly is this mega canal all about? Okay, so the Funan Techo Canal, it's going to be 180 kilometers long and 100 meters wide. It's basically going to carve a direct path from near the capital, Phnom Penh, tapping into the Mekong river system and heading right out to the sea. And here's the kicker, the really strategic part. It completely, totally bypasses Vietnam, which for all of modern history has been the gatekeeper for Cambodian shipping. Yeah, and that bypass, that's the whole point. You see, for Cambodia, this whole thing is about breaking free. It's their escape route from being economically dependent on their neighbors for so long. So, to really get why they want this, you have to understand the nightmare they deal with right now. Imagine this. About a third of all their stuff has to get loaded on these small boats, chug down the Mekong into Vietnam, and then just wait, sometimes for more than a day. Plus, customs can be way more expensive there. And only then does it get reloaded onto the big ships that go out to sea. It's just so slow and expensive.
And look, this isn't just some abstract problem on a spreadsheet. There's this guy, Saran Sung. He's the CEO of a big rice company. And he tells this story about shipping 4 containers. And Vietnam just said no. They weren't allowed through. They had to turn the whole shipment around. That costs a ton of money, right? It's that kind of unpredictability that's really driving this project.
So all of this, it feeds into Cambodia's bigger picture. They've got this huge goal, They want to be a high-income country by 2050. But they've always had this feeling of being sandwiched between these 2 giants, Thailand and Vietnam. And they worry that in a pinch, their neighbors could just squeeze their trade. So the canal, well, that's their way of breaking out of that squeeze.
But of course, there's another side to this story. Because what looks like an escape route for one country can feel like a direct threat to another. And that brings us to Vietnam's really serious concerns.
To get where Vietnam is coming from, you really have to understand just how important the Mekong Delta is to them. I mean, we're talking about a place that's home to 18 million people. It's not just some random area. They call it their rice basket for a reason. It produces 80% of their rice exports, and 70% of their aquaculture comes from there too. And here's the thing, the Delta is already in trouble, losing billions every year because salt water is creeping in. So for them, any change to the Mekong's flow is a massive red flag. And this is where we get to the real heart of the disagreement. You've got 2 totally different stories being told. Cambodia's over here saying, look, it's just a straw's worth of water. It won't have any real impact. But Vietnam is terrified that it's actually a cover for a massive water diversion for farming, which could literally starve their rice basket. So one side sees economic necessity, the other sees this huge, dangerous lack of clarity. Yeah, as one analyst, Dr. Lee Hong Kiep, said there's a grave lack of clarity. The problem is, Cambodia hasn't shared a detailed study with the Mekong River Commission, the very group that's supposed to help manage this stuff between countries. So if you're Vietnam, it kind of looks like Cambodia's got something to hide, right? And that feeling of suspicion, it gets a whole lot bigger when you realize there's a third major player in the room, and that player is China. You see, China isn't just some random investor here. They're Cambodia's ironclad friend, their #1 trading partner. And if you just look at the recent history, the pattern is pretty clear. Cambodia jumped on board China's Belt and Road Initiative early on. Then, in 2020, China starts bankrolling a big upgrade at Cambodia's Ream naval base. And now, surprise, surprise, a Chinese company is set to build and run this new canal. This isn't just a series of coincidences. Which, of course, leads to the big, flashing question that's making people in both Hanoi and Washington pretty nervous. Could this canal be for more than just cargo? Is it possible it's deep enough, wide enough, for Chinese warships to sail right up into the heart of Cambodia, right next to the Mekong? Now, Cambodia's official answer is hard no. They keep pointing to their constitution saying, hey, look, it's illegal for us to have foreign military bases. So, they argue, there's just no way China could use it for military stuff. Okay, but here's the thing. At the very same time they're saying this, satellite photos have popped up, and they seem to show Chinese warships docked at that exact naval base we just talked about, the one that's not too far from where this new canal will meet the sea. So you've got what they're saying on one hand and what the pictures are showing on the other. All right, so let's zoom out from the big picture geopolitics for a second, because this project isn't just about governments and trade. It's about real people, and it's tied up in something really powerful, national pride. Just think about this for a second. To build this thing, something like 10,000 homes are going to have to be moved. We're talking about thousands of families who will be displaced. Their farms, their businesses, even their family tombs. That's a huge human cost. But what's really incredible is what many people on the ground are saying. Listen to this. This quote comes from a 75-year-old villager named Lim Tongying. His own house is slated for demolition to make way for the canal. And what does he say? He supports it. He says it benefits all the Cambodian people. That just shows you how deep the national pride behind this project really goes. And you have to remember the politics here. For the new Prime Minister, Hun Monet, who just took over from his dad after he ruled for almost 40 years, this canal is everything. It's his legacy project. If he pulls this off, it's a huge statement about his leadership and about Cambodia's place in the world. It's just as much about prestige as it is about profit. And in the end, I think this last quote really gets to the heart of it all. For so many people in Cambodia, this canal is more than just a canal. It's a declaration. It's their way of telling the world, hey, we can stand on our own, we can build our own country, and we can control our own future. It's a slow, determined march forward fueled by this incredibly powerful mix of pride, ambition, and this deep, deep desire to finally be independent.